Hey everyone! Today, I want to talk about something incredibly powerful and uplifting: the rise of Black women empowerment. Black women have always been the backbone of movements, families, and communities. But now, more than ever, their voices are not just being heard, they're being amplified. Think about the trailblazers who paved the way: the Harriet Tubmans, the Rosa Parkses, the Shirley Chisholms. These women fought tirelessly for freedom and equality. Fast forward to today, and we see the torch being passed to a new generation of leaders. Women like Stacey Abrams, who played a crucial role in transforming the political landscape, and Tarana Burke, whose #MeToo movement has given countless victims a voice. But it's not just about the famous names. It's about every Black woman who stands up and says, "I deserve to be seen, heard, and respected." From the entrepreneurs building empires, to the activists marching in the streets, to the mothers raising the next generation of changemakers, Black women are the epitome of strength and resilience. Let's talk about entrepreneurship for a moment. Black women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the United States. They're creating businesses that not only serve their communities, but also challenge the status quo. From beauty brands that celebrate natural hair to tech startups that innovate and inspire, these women are proving that they are a force to be reckoned with. And what about the arts? Black women are dominating the music industry, Hollywood, literature, and more. Artists like Beyoncé, who use their platforms to highlight issues of race and gender, are showing young Black girls everywhere that they can be anything they dream of. Education is another area where Black women are making waves. They are graduating at higher rates than their peers and are increasingly taking on leadership roles in academia. These achievements are not just personal victories. They are building a legacy of excellence for future generations. So what can we do to support this movement? It starts with listening, learning, and amplifying Black women's voices. Support Black-owned businesses. Vote for candidates who prioritize equality and justice. And most importantly, stand with Black women in their fight for empowerment. This movement is not a moment, it's a revolution, and it's one that we all need to be a part of. Thanks for watching, and remember, empowerment starts with each one of us. Until next time, stay inspired.
Recording. Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, this is the Black Eye Podcast. It's been a minute since we have talked. Life has been lifing. Things have changed. I don't have the schedule I used to have or the time. So, whenever this video gets put out, it's been a minute since we talked. Anyways, welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. I have a question for you. Do you believe that the BWE has empowered women, Black women in particular? Because that's a question I've been asking myself for a while. I don't know if I were ever really into the space, but one of the inspirations for being in the space was really to fight back against the misogynoir, especially against Black women, perpetrated by Black men who, painted this picture and perpetuated this narrative that Black women were the bottom of the barrel, the least desired, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, we didn't, contributed anything good to the world. We were welfare queens. We were ratchet. And I really wanted to come in to this space, and you might have heard me say this before, and really talk about how Black women have contributed not only to our community, but to the world at large, and to reinforce the idea that we are strivers, that we make it in this world. We are the backbone of our society, and not to listen to these men tell us that we are nothing. Why are we engaging in that narrative? But as I began to progress in this space, if you want to call what I'm doing progression, I was horrified to find that women were just as much propagators of these narratives as men were. And I thought to myself, wait a minute. I go to women's content and I support women's content. But when I listen to some of these BWE women, I think to myself, I just don't know what to think about you. I don't know how to feel. And it took me a minute to uh, come to this conclusion that women had to change the way we talk. And I tried to address that, but I have a problem. I never want to really say anything negative about a person or a woman or women in general. I really want to just come here and uplift and show that women in our space and in our communities are successful or striving. And I want to encourage other black women to do the same. But black women don't do that as well as men do, or as white women, if you want to be that way. So I wanted to play this video because I thought that maybe I was seeing things a little differently. But it was interesting to find out that other people were seeing this. Now, this is only one guy, and you can go and follow his content on TikTok. He really is a sound person, one of the few men that I follow and like to listen to. But I'm really happy and sad at the same time that he also noticed that the BWE movement didn't really work hard enough to empower women. Let me just say this too, and I'm sorry if it sounds a little bit all over the place, but the fact that BWE is dead puzzles me. How can something that was meant to empower women be dead? Women still need to be empowered, don't they? Black women still need to be lifted up, don't we? Why is it that our empowerment is based on arguing with men? Just like I don't understand why manhood is based on their argument about women or with women. So I was thinking about that and I made this observation in another video. I said, when it comes to men, when they want to lift each other up, they'll cruise by some other content creator. They'll see his content. They'll like what he likes. They like his vibe or whatever, and they will say, "Look, come on to my panel. I'm having a panel at 10 o'clock tonight, and I invite you on there." But black women, we don't share in that sisterhood. It seems as though we really want to tear each other down, beat each other up, and I'm talking about metaphorically and maybe sometimes physically, and that we don't really kind of care for each other because when it comes to uplifting black women, we got to start out by telling you, first of all, you ain't shit. That's how we got to start off by telling you, you ain't shit. Why aren't you shit? Well, I don't like the way you do your hair. You look like you're sloppy. You look like a this. You look like a that. You're a trans woman. You're a drag queen. I mean, good God. Some of the women drag you worse than the men. And I'm thinking to myself, is this the BWE movement? Is this the movement we're supposed to come in to be uplifted by, to feed our souls by? And I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. And, the fact that the BWE is dead is like, what do you mean it's dead? What do you mean it's over? So black women are uplifted now? The narrative has changed? What? Anyway, let me play this video for you. And then I'm going to come back on the end. I might interrupt a little bit because, I don't want to infringe on anybody. But I'm going to come back and interrupt a little bit because I want to know what you think about this. And if you're sensing that, or if you're feeling that, and maybe you didn't want to say anything, or maybe you just thought, this is how we go. This is how black people do. This is how we talk to each other. This is how we communicate. But the truth is hard, and we got to give it to each other hard. I don't know. Tell me what you think.
Virtual conference. Women Empowerment Virtual Conference. I wish they would have never invited me. I don't know if women understand that they're being talked to in such a demeaning, demoralizing tone. I mean, I sat there and I listened to women become disrespected, humiliated, exposed. And the way they were talked to was supposed to be motivating. It was one came in there, one speaker saying, stop being, she coined her topic is stop being an average woman. And I'm like, okay, you can't mess that up, right? She basically started it off saying, you're not an average woman. You over here acting average. Some of you need to be draped in all these fancy clothes, and you desire this, and God want to give it to you, but you walking around average, and you looking like you from Walmart when you need to be from some fancy store. And I'm listening to this, and I'm like, she basically just talking about y'all. Everything about you is average. Everything about you need to get up. You need to get up. And I'm like, God dang, is this supposed to be motivating? I said, what the hell? And everybody, all the women were clapping and yeah, sis, yeah. I'm like, am I the only one here that like she just basically just demeaned you? And she said, I was just in Paris last month, and some of you can't do this, and you go to Bahamas and all this stuff. And I'm sitting here like, how is this empowering? Other lady, she came in there and she spoke. It was a young lady who got up and said, hey, my husband, he took everything from me, everything, my house and everything. She's still struggling to get the house because he didn't work. And the court basically gave her the house because he had to take care of the kids and all this other stuff. She just told her story. And the girl said, well, you picked him. You got to understand that wasn't the man God picked for you. How the freaking world was she?
I gotta stop and say this because we know he's talking about black women. We know that's who he's talking about. That's who gets this kind of bullshit all the time. I don't know what it is about black women who we're not allowed to be human, right? We're not allowed to, make mistakes. We're not allowed to falter. We're not allowed to feel. We're supposed to have this higher spirit of discernment. We're not supposed to acknowledge that people lie, deceive, trick. We're not allowed to think about that. Black women get the brunt of all the harshness that comes from our society. And I'm trying to understand why that is. I'm going to go back and I'm going to play the part because I know I stopped at a weird part. But he's absolutely right. How in God's name are you supposed to know that you are with the wrong person? You have no idea of knowing, especially if they lie to themselves, because men will lie to themselves. They will really convince themselves that this is what they want, this is what they need, and then they really get what they want, and they find out that they don't really want that. Life is a lot harder than they surmise in their head, a lot harder than patriarchy told them it would be. But see, nobody wants to admit to that either. And so they come in. The reason why women are convinced that this is the guy, that this is the man, is because the men are convinced that they are the man. They are convinced. And therefore, with their conviction, they can convince you. And so, yeah, the motivation is supposed to be to comfort you and to lift you up. But instead, they want to kick you in the head and tell you, well, you should have known. You should have seen the signs. You mean to tell me you didn't see the signs? No. How could I? I'm not omnipotent. I'm just a person, just like the rest of you. But let me go on. I'm going to play this back. I'm sorry that I interrupted at a weird time. But,
Sitting here like, how is this empowering? Other lady, she came in there and she spoke. It was a young lady who got up and said, hey, my husband, he took everything from me, everything, my house and everything. She's still struggling to get the house because he didn't work. And the court basically gave her the house because he had to take care of the kids and all this other stuff. She just told her story, and the girl said, "Well, you picked him. You got to understand that wasn't the man God picked for you." How the freaking world was she supposed to know that? Let me explain something to you, man. You don't know that your choice was bad until you make the choice. So you got to give yourself some grace. You didn't know how bad the decisions you made until you made the decision. You didn't have the information that you needed in order to make that decision. If you would have probably made the better decision if you knew what you knew now. But somebody to freaking demean you, and I mean I can go on about these speakers. There was not one speaker in there that spoke life into these women, and these women was saying, yeah, and I think they just was going with the motions, or they were so broken that they just accepted anything because it's a pretty face, because it's an overly make up pretty face of a woman who just talking to them and never giving them love and saying, hey baby, yeah, you made a mistake, and that's cool. You made that mistake. Let's figure this out. Let's sit here and give you a solution, and not talk to you a certain way. You don't deserve somebody to talk to you like that, especially another woman. Have y'all ever, and I want y'all to be, ever been to a men's conference? I encourage everybody, if you can, if you got a husband and ever go, tell them. We talk to each other completely different. We'll sit down at a round table and sit back and try to figure some things out. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, what is this? Why these women? I mean, I felt hurt from women who wanted help, that came here, paid $100 for help. There's so many women who lost. There's so many women who have mother issues, man, who trying to figure out how to get through this stuff, and they got kids they got. How in the hell a woman supposed to know that this dude over here was a terrible father if he ain't never had no kids? If she's the first one to give him kids, how the hell is she supposed to know that this dude was going to act like this and do this, man? And if she wasn't put in the situation, most of the time, dudes and the other people that you, even men and women that you get in your life, never had the opportunity to fuck you over until the opportunity presents themselves to fuck you over. So how was you supposed to know? How was you going to protect yourself from that? I know how. Putting yourself first, only doing the things that benefit you. Not being an asshole to somebody, not being whatever, but loving who you need to be. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. So I've been toying with this idea.
So I'm gonna stop it here. If you want to go and finish the video, you can do so on your own. But I really wanted to play this and highlight this idea, this thought, and this thought process and this observation, because I feel like black women do get the brunt of the harshness amongst our own kind. I was watching a content creator. I'm not certain if I should even call her name because I really don't want, I don't have the energy to be doing battle with people, but I'm going to call it. And she's up here talking to women, telling women that they want to be abused, that they looking to be abused, that they want abuse. And while some people are a little masochistic, uh, that's not the majority of women out here seeking help. She's supposed to be a black women empowerment person, to empower not just black women, but to empower women. And she's sitting here on her platform blaming women for patriarchy, practically saying that that we are the reason why there was patriarchy. And I'm thinking to myself, honey, do you know that women, that we just came out of the proverbial cave? I am older than some of the rights that women have today. 1973 was Roe v. Wade. I was born in 1970. We are coming out of the proverbial cave, 1976 or something, when we could get our loan and have our own bank accounts. How are you sitting here talking to women this way? And let's not be, let's be clear. The women who are getting the brunt of this are black women. How are you telling women that they ought to know that they're responsible for this and that they could see that and that they're responsible for the way the world is? When patriarchy has been in existence for at least 6,000 years. This is the first generation where the church isn't involved in your life. We're trying to fight the government. And I did a video regarding that the government is playing around with your life. But that, we actually have absolute autonomy. And yes, women are confused because we're used to being led, we're used to being subjugated. It's inherent, it's innate upon us to be subjugated, to be, under somebody's thumb, under the covering of somebody, you know, that it's in our DNA, so to speak. We've been programmed to be wives and subjected mothers and subjugated. And now the world doesn't know what to do because as women begin to exercise their power, which is to give birth and not to give birth, now the men are getting scared. And now the messaging is trad wives, traditional husbands, traditional men want traditional wives, and all that bullshit. When they were traditional, they were running out on the wives and leaving the kids. I have videos on my platform right now where trad wives was sitting here with the men for 19 years, being wives, being mothers, and they run off with 19. The men run off with 19-year-old girls, leaving them broke. If you're dependent on a man, you're in trouble. You're in serious, serious trouble. But even worse, if you're looking for women to uplift you, you're probably in worse position. Because a lot of people don't know how to uplift women, especially black women. If they're not tearing you down in some way, they really don't know how to uplift you. They really don't know how to talk about how to figure out your problem. They really don't know how to talk to you about how to recognize things, how subtle people are, how, yes, you can be a manipulated person, how, yes, there are people out there, people, human beings, who seek out healed people so they can destroy them. They seek out good women so they can subjugate them. It's sad that there is no sisterhood. It's sad that the BWE movement is quiet. It's dead. Now more than ever, especially black women need to be uplifted. Now more than ever. And yet, now that they can't argue with the men, because really that's all it's about. Now that they can't argue with the men, now they're quiet, even though there is plenty to be done in the BWE sector. And I find it frustrating. I find it very sad. Simply, Stephanie is trying to get people motivated to fight against black femicide. But where's the BWE sector? They don't want to talk about that now. There's nobody, like, where are y'all? Have y'all given up? And yet, here's a man coming, talking on the platform on TikTok about how we are talking to each other and how there is no real sisterhood. And that's terrifying when you think about it. That's terrifying. Anyway, I don't want to ramble on too long. I know I talk a little too much. But I just wanted to understand why it is like that for black women. Why is it that we need to be the higher ones? Why do we need to be torn down? Why can't we be lifted up? And I'm not talking about among the men. The men are going to do what the men are going to do. But amongst the women, why can't we talk about all the success that black women achieve? Good news, good headspace, good things. Instead of sitting here talking about how we are wanting our men to beat us and wanting to be assaulted and looking to be abused. Who the frick is looking to be abused? Who is looking for that? You do not expect that. You don't expect that to happen to you. It happens after you have been invested in this relationship for a while, after you've been manipulated. And make no mistake, ladies, there's never a horse that couldn't be rode and never a person couldn't be thrown. Just because you have walls up on one place doesn't mean that they're not trying to come in another place. That's the art of manipulation. Anyways, let me get off. I don't want to be on here too long. But tell me what you think in the comments. Do you think that the BWE movement is over and that it really helped uplift black women? And if it has, how did it uplift you? Share it in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.